as a central instrument. In fact, the first demos that we made as a very young band were placed according to a piano that was of different tuning, or a half step lower than the modern, what is it, 440? What was it? It was lower.
I can't remember what it is. It's almost half a step. Like apparently like 1898 or something.
Yeah. So we based all the recording around the piano. So it counted as a return anyway. It's a very natural and central instrument for us. Songwriting, anyway, just hadn't been for live performances.
We try to allow each song to dictate what the instrumentation will be ultimately. So it wasn't a question where we were going in and saying we're going to record a bunch of songs with piano. It was just kind of like case-by-case scenario. Does this work? What works the best? But it's true, like Scott's saying, Scott, Bob, and I all use the piano as a major tool for writing, for finding out harmonies, if something's confusing us. It's kind of a main central piece for us to use like throughout.
Yeah, to take it a step even further, our father wouldn't, they kind of said, if you want to learn guitar or anything else, you have to start with piano. So we started with piano lessons before we had instruments. So it really goes to the beginning.
So we went through the process of learning how to play piano and then forgetting how to play piano and then
relearning again. And now we're slowly forgetting once again. We're getting worse and worse the more we play.
Speaking of your father, he ran a welding business. What from his sort of hardworking entrepreneurial spirit do you think you've brought into the band?
The entire organization of the Avett Brothers Incorporated is kind of funny because the three of us started the company in 2001. We weren't in Nashville, we weren't in Los Angeles, we weren't in New York, we were in Concord, North Carolina, and we figured people will come to us if we put a business together and just go at it like a construction company. So we incorporated our name, the Avett Brothers Incorporated, and thought nothing of publicity or media at all, and just started touring, playing shows. And we would play in coffee shops, in churches, in bars, in all kinds of dives. And we really depended and leaned on our work ethic way more than our ability. Because, if somebody wanted to do a little news show, a local news show, we were there at 6 a.m. and we'd be playing, the night before, wrapping up at 3 a.m. So it was something that runs deep with us and is a huge part. And like I said, maybe even more so than we're kind of trying to catch up with the talent, bring the talent up to the work ethic that had been instilled in us.
But again, it's not like we consciously studied our father's plan for business or anything like that. Just a lot of how our parents taught us just went hand in hand with working hard, and so a lot of that was sort of unspoken.
Do you have any crazy Bonnaroo stories?
Crazy Bonnaroo stories. Well, the first time we played Bonnaroo was a great example of that work ethic minus talent. We just muscled our way through. It was in a tent, and it was right after Radiohead played. And it was a really wild scenario and wild scene. And we've had many of those shows since 2001 throughout, where you just kind of look up in a daze, and it's a small room, a quarter of the size of this room, and it's just beer and water, and people, and just this blur that happens. And that only happens when you engage that work ethic to a point where it's just running like a machine, and it's really terrific to get to that point. Bonnaroo, our introduction to Bonnaroo was exactly that. Whether that's crazy or not, it's just another day at the office for us.
Yeah, for us, generally, the craziness is on the stage, and then we try to sort of get out of Dodge before our own craziness really hurts us or anything else. We stay busy. We get in, we do our thing, we get out, we get on to the next thing.
We stopped talking about our own craziness because we found it very tasteless.
Yeah.
And boring stuff.
When I ask people questions, a lot of times I ask them, what do they miss on the road? And they always say, their family. You guys are together, so do you ever want to get away from each other?
We get away from each other a fair amount. I think that's necessary for even your closest relationships, like marriages.
Notice how the opposite between us.
That's right.
Don't you hear the monotone tempo in our voice?
No, we love it.
I've been on the road for 10 days with this guy. We cherish our time apart, and we see the value in it. And we remember when we're together, even when we disagree, that nobody's going to look after ourselves or each other like we are. And,
right.
So, our dad told us that directly when we got going, and, your dad usually knows a little more than you do about things like that, so we took his word for it, and we try to remind ourselves of that.
You guys played at Coachella, and then a week later came back to Indio and played Stagecoach.
That's right.
You're about the only band I can imagine really doing both of those.
Yeah.
And what was the difference playing the same place but those two different weekends back to back?
Hay bales.
Yeah, hay bales. The roster was smaller for Stagecoach, fewer bands, but just an amazing personality change. They were both great, but it was just really sort of bizarre and fun to watch. From one Saturday to the next Saturday, a whole set of grounds change personality. But they were both really positive, both very friendly. But really, that may have been the only time we've ever experienced that, where you've seen such a personality change of a festival in the exact same place. But it was awesome. It really was.
Why did you fellas say yes to playing Churchill down HullabaLOU?
Because they asked us. We love saying yes. People invite us, and it's really difficult for us to find a reason to say no. We're honored to play anytime we get the chance, anytime we get the opportunity. We will slam our schedule as full as we can. We will do as much as we can. And, the fact that they would invite us to such a nice place and such a big deal, we jumped at that.
Plus, Kentucky's great to us.
Oh man, Kentucky, yeah.
It's always been great
Among
to us.
many, Louisville, Lexington, both.
Louisville's great to us, and so we see an opportunity to come back. We're not going to turn our noses up there.
Have you been to a Kentucky Derby?
We have not.
No.
If you had a horse running in the Kentucky Derby, what would you name it?
Man, I've probably tested this question and had a stock answer for it, and I've forgotten it.
I was just thinking HUD. Scott has this Doberman that he's had for 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
He's just a really sweet dog. He's just a really sweet dog, and he's it's funny with a dog that when they're really young feels a runt, maybe it's just really freaked out all the time, and you sort of expect at some point for the dog to settle down, and HUD never settled down. So he's like this 12-year-old dog with all kinds of gray hair all over his face and his nose and everything. He's still just crazy, just freaking out all the time. So I like to see him run.
There's a lot of similarities between HUD and his dad. We were the runts growing up.
Right.
Just kind of
He both has this boundless energy that can be extracted at times.
So I guess HUD is the answer. H&D.
Who are you most excited to see today? Are you going to catch anybody?
Well, it sounds like we're going to possibly get to see Dwight Oakley.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And is Loretta Indian?
She is.
Is she playing before him? Does anybody know?
I think she's,
Just got her.
At the same time as us, okay.
yeah, so
those
probably
are the two we'd like
not.
to see if we could- we-
Maybe not. We'll take whatever we can get though. If anybody's playing and we're within sight of it, we'll check it out. So
You guys are known as musicians. What are the most obscure instruments any of you play?
music.
Bob is
Guitar.
the trumpet. What else?
I mean, we try to play anything we can get our hands on for a recording. When we go to the studio, we have a number of instruments laid out.
Oh, yeah, we'll pretend to put an instrument in our hands. We're
Balalaika.
like, oh yeah, I can play this instrument.
But they don't get very obscure, I don't guess.
Nah.
The banjo seemed very obscure when I started playing it because we were in rock bands and it seemed like a strange alien instrument. And a lot of the kids that hung out around it, they were kind of like, what are you doing? What is this? But it doesn't seem so alien anymore.
What was it like being in the studio with Rick Rubin for the first couple days as you were starting work on I Am Loving You?
Well, by then it was a pretty natural progression because we'd already spent a fair amount of time with him. It started off with him inviting us to his home, so really that was like the initial moment. Oh, this is happening. This is happening. He actually is a fan. We are actually at his house. We're talking all that, and we went back many times to listen to demos and talk and have supper and all that. So by the time we got in the studio, a lot of that edge was taken off. Hadn't been there at all in the first place, but it was for us, I think it was a very quick calming, because it was obvious there was a mutual respect right off. It wasn't like, he doesn't really hover over you with all of his experience and respect and fame and all that. All that sort of dissipates as soon as you meet him, and he makes it very natural, and it felt very natural right off. So we got in the studio, and I was pretty relaxed, maybe a little more relaxed than I should. I always tell a story right before we went in. My wife asked me as we were leaving, she's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, we recorded lots of records. I'm not nervous at all. I think I probably should have been a little more nervous than I was, because we did demand more of ourselves on I-11U than we had in the past. So it was definitely more demanding. But as far as working with Rick, it was very natural.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.